Hello. It is 4th of July. And that's a time of year. Brings up a lot of complicated feelings for me, and other people. So I just thought I would talk about it. And I know for a lot of people this isn't something they need to talk about or even really want to talk about. For a lot of people, this day is either really, really painful and they don't want to think about it, or they don't want to think about the ways that this day could be painful and they just want to have their fun and not really approach it with any nuance. And that's okay. You don't have to watch this, but I just thought I would sorry, I have a little guy. I just thought I would make a video talking about it because it's on my mind, for obvious reasons. When I was growing up, I was told, and to a lot of people of color and especially Native Americans, this is gonna sound stupid, I know, but I was told that America was this big melting pot where people from all over could come and live in harmony, and people of all sorts of different races and cultures could come together. That there were all sorts of subcultures and different food groups and different ways of dressing and different religions. And I had like these little kids' books full of kids from different countries who all looked different and talking about different languages and just really hyping up the idea of America being this multicultural paradise where people from all over the world could all come and live in the same place, and where it didn't matter if you looked different or acted different, if your religion was different, if you ate weird food. And, obviously I went to public school. It's not like I didn't experience bullying. I did, although when I was little I didn't know it was bullying. My autism was so bad that kids could physically beat me up and I didn't know they didn't like me. So, unsurprisingly, I didn't really pick up that they were mean to anyone else either. But as I got older, and especially looking back, it is clear that even though that's the values I was being taught growing up, a lot of other kids were not being taught that, were in fact being taught the opposite. And as young as kindergarten, lots of kids are being bullied and discriminated against for being different. I was paying attention when the fight for gay rights was happening. I remember watching it happen on YouTube. It's funny thinking about how the Five Nights at Freddy's franchise is older than gay marriage in the United States. I remember Jacksepticeye at the time really cheering us on and hoping that it would work. And then it did, so that's good. I was very optimistic when I was younger because as history classes happened, and as I met more and more mean people, and realized that America was not this place where anyone could come and be free, and also realized there were a lot of freedoms we didn't have, realized gay people couldn't get married and that was something we had to fight for, and then even after we won it, realizing how recent women's rights were, and how recent just slavery ending is, and like Rosa Parks is alive. And knowing all of these things and learning all of this stuff and learning the truth about how settlers treated Native Americans, and also my own Native American heritage, which I've convinced my papa to take me to the reservation where my dad was born, but he was too little to remember it. Because I've tried to ask him about our heritage, but he's really quiet about it. And I think a big reason for that is because for a long time kids were like being put in schools and punished for not conforming. My dad actually had his hair forcibly shaved off by a school teacher because he had long hair. And, like, a very obvious hate crime. So I'm not surprised he doesn't want to talk about it. I didn't used to get it when I was younger, but the thing is, learning all that stuff, for a lot of people, that's the moment where they snap out of it, right? And they're just like, I don't really care. But, well, they do care, but they don't really like America anymore. But I remember thinking to myself, okay, well, this is bad. And history is bad, but we can always get better. And I still believed that the idea that I still associated with America in my head, even though I knew it wasn't the reality at this point, was people having as much individual choice as possible, and there being as much diversity as possible. And I was like, all right, let's work, let's make this a reality, we can do it. And I still believe that that is a future worth fighting for. That people's autonomy over their own bodies, that their right to food, water, shelter, healthcare, that those things matter. I think we still could and can, and we can all do our part to make this a place where people can live their lives, no matter who they are, and where everyone is allowed to pursue the life that's best for them. But in recent years, I kind of have realized that that's not what I kind of saw the fucked up history and present as the idea not being executed correctly. But now I've realized that isn't really the idea for a lot of people. To many people, that isn't the goal. And that's not even the idea of what America means. And a lot of you are going to say, oh yeah, well, fucking obviously. And it's like, yeah, obviously we aren't there, and obviously we weren't there in the past, but I still thought that's where most people wanted us to go. I thought that's where the goal was for us to be headed. And that's the part that didn't click for me until the last few years, is that there are people who don't want that future. They want white, middle class or richer, straight, cishet, in some cases, like, even specific hair color and eye color, people who all are, like, a very specific, narrow idea of what Christianity is, and who, like, dress the same and listen to the same music, and just miles and miles of identical suburbs. And the thing that has made me feel really bad is recognizing that the people who are the loudest about saying how much they love America, and who fly the flag in front of their homes and wear it on their clothes and all that stuff, not all of them, some of them are more like me, but a lot of them, that's what America is to them. So when they say, I love America, they don't mean, I love the protesters from Stonewall, and I love Martin Luther King, and I love Black Panthers, and I love the music genres that originated here, and I love all of the innovations the Black community's made, and I love my neighbors. That's not what they mean. There's a large group of people that when they say I love America, they mean I love the idea of people like me taking over the land and controlling it. I love the idea of being in charge. I love the idea of bending this world to my will, manifest destiny. And that is fucked. But, you know, like, it just sucks to know that a lot of people in minority groups see the American flag and get scared because they assume, based off of the percentages, that most people with that flag would be dangerous to them, that wherever they're seeing that flag, that it's a sign of danger. And that makes me really upset. It's just really sad. I don't think any country's flag should strike fear into people. So, I think a lot of people, when they hear you say that, and when they hear you talk about all of this really sad stuff, they think, okay, so you don't love America. But that's where the nuance comes in, is I don't love the institution of America. I don't love colonialism, and I don't love the idea of trying to force people out or anything like that, but there's a lot of ideas and people and cool things that come from here, and I love that, and I love the people. And what I've come to realize loving America means for me is not really loving America, it's loving those things and those people. If I woke up tomorrow and this country wasn't called America anymore, or if we dissolved and gave all the land back to the natives, which honestly would be awesome, I'm down for that, and really we should be advocating for that. But, you know, I would still love the animals and the plants that are native to this land. I would still love the people, the music genres. Right now, the place associated with those things is called America. But if it was called something else, if it wasn't considered one place anymore, that wouldn't make me not care about those things anymore. And, you know, like when I was a kid, I didn't understand why people thought patriotism was weird and shallow. But now that I'm older, and with everything I've discussed, I think I get why people think that patriotism is shallow, and I think it's because there's a lot of people to whom patriotism really means loyalty to, like, a government or a specific institution. It's loyalty to the idea of, you know, like, it's more about the idea than about any of the actual places or people. But not even, like, God, I don't know if I'm explaining this right. But just, like, it feels like none of, I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes it feels like when people are talking about patriotism, what they're really talking about is how much you love the government that you have right now. And that's basically kind of it, where, like, they could give or take almost anything else. Like, they don't really care about the land that they live on, the plants and animals that are unique to the place that they're in. Fuck, a lot of the stuff that is unique to America, a lot of people consider un-American, even though it was invented here, because black people did it. And that makes no fucking sense. Like, you would think that if patriotism was more grounded in reality, and in, like, physical, like the actual world around us, then that stuff would be included. And that's what I'm getting at, is, like, the idea that it isn't really about anything that originated from your culture or the place you are in, that it's just about being willing to die in the military. Not even for any specific cause, just in general, because the government you happen to be born under asked you to. And I think that's why people talk about patriotism as like this nonsense thing. And that does sound pretty stupid to me. It's just growing up, I didn't think of patriotism as that. I thought patriotism was about loving, like, again, like, things that are actually in, like, more about the area you're in and the people you're around than about whatever military is in charge, you know? But I don't know. I still love that stuff. I love a lot of things. I made a list, actually, of things that were made in America or invented in America or unique to America. It's pretty long, just because I think a lot of people make jokes and memes about, like, oh, we should just nuke America. We should just all die or leave. But I don't think that's fair to the people who are living here who wouldn't be able to afford to move out. I don't think it's fair to the plants and animals. I don't think it's fair to the good things that have come out of this place, and to all of the music genres and foods and sports and subcultures that come from here. I think the better thing to do, I don't know, it's easy to imagine just razing everything to the ground. It's a lot harder to imagine all of the deconstruction and rebuilding that would have to happen to take apart a corrupt system and build a new one, but without, like, damaging the land or the people, you know? Like, I think a lot of people would fantasize about just waking up one morning and America is just gone. And I think people like that because it's easy. But I don't care if this place is called America tomorrow or in 20 years. But I do care about the stuff here. And I don't know, I think we owe it to the good in ourselves and in the world to fight to make things better, and not to just take things lying down and accept that this is the way things have to be, that this is just how everything is, that we're just stuck. Like, this idea that America will always be awful, because it started awful and it has been awful. A name of a country is just what you call it. Governments fall and are changed. There's the small examples of different political leaders getting elected, and then big examples like massive reforms or even entirely new structures of government. Like, you read history books and countries, as in who's ever in charge and what you call it, fall and change all the time. But the progress and the evolution of things happening in those areas keeps going. Like, we don't, like, the stuff that happened in the USSR, when it stopped being the USSR, it's not like all those memories and anything that was invented during that time just disappeared. So I just think we should be fighting to make this place a nice place to live in, to be kinder people to the people around us, and to help educate people who may be well-intentioned but just not very well informed, and just somewhere in the world, I do want there to be a place where anyone can come and live together, and it doesn't really matter the differences that you have. And I do think that's possible. I think that that is something we can work towards no matter what. So, I think that's important. And I think for 4th of July, I think the most important thing to do is to shift the focus away from celebrating, like, specific politicians or, like, our specific government. I don't know. I don't think celebrating America as we know it is as important as celebrating, again, the land and the stuff that has happened around us that is good. So, I'm sorry that this video is so rambly. I just have a lot of thoughts and feelings. Okay. So, for music genres that were invented here, I've written down blues, jazz, country, gospel music, R&B, rock and roll, soul, funk, disco, hip-hop, grunge, and techno and house. Obviously, when people think of EDM and electronic music, they think of like a lot of the countries in the European area, but techno and house specifically were here. But man, I mean, jazz is good, underrated. Hip hop also really great. Like, all of this is nice, good stuff. You know, and that stuff matters, and that's good. And it brings light to the world. And that is worth appreciating and celebrating. You know? Like, put on a jazz record. Play some country music, I don't know. But, like, good country. Not, well, I mean, I guess good is subjective, but... Okay. California rolls, obviously. Banana splits. Cornbread, hamburgers, corn dogs, not hot dogs. I don't know if hot dogs are from here, but I know corn dogs are. S'mores, Philly cheesesteaks, American pizza and spaghetti, different from how the Italians do it. There's actually a lot of cuisine like that here in America. I mean, like, I like Taco Bell, that's not Mexican food. We call it Mexican food because that's the thing it resembles closest, but no, it's fusion cuisine. It's just a bunch of nonsense. That's some American ass shit, and I love that. I love that is taco food is some American ass food. That is not real Mexican food. And I think American Italian food is the same way. It's like, it's so, like, no one else is making pizza like that. Like, we did that. We took their pizza and we were like, hey, what if we got a little funky with it? And then we just made our own fucking thing and then also called it pizza. And it's crazy. And I love that. Biscuits and gravy. I love biscuits and gravy. Fortune cookies. What specific group of, a lot of these come from immigrants and then sort of different ingredients because of the big move and then also mixing of cultures. There's a lot of arguments as to which ethnic group specifically created fortune cookies, but they weren't a thing in China and they were made here. They originated in California. Common consensus is that it was probably people who had moved from Japan, but regardless, fortune cookies became a thing in California. No one in China, and no one in Japan either, but people think that that it was invented by people who came from Japan, was having cookies that had, like, messages inside. Like, no one was putting paper with writing on it in their fucking cookies. But now we have that. Volleyball is American. Softball, not baseball, but softball. American football, as you would probably expect. And cheerleading, which actually originated as a male sport. I love things like that, where people will, like, be, like, so aggressively, like, gender about something, and then you look at history and you're just like, bitch, it was the other way around a while ago. But yeah, cheerleading is American as well. And then I wrote down some things that, because I watch a lot of YouTubers who aren't American, things that other countries and cultures just, like, associate with America, that they see or think about in the wild, and they're like, oh, that's some American ass shit. Red Solo cups. I found out in other countries they call them American party cups. Like, the same way that we have people here who are obsessed with, like, Britain or Japan, there's people in other countries who are, like, American-aboos or whatever. And if you want to have an American-themed party, because there's all these movies made in America where everyone drinks out of red Solo cups, if you're having an American-themed party, you buy red Solo cups, although obviously they're going to be more expensive. And everyone's going to be like, ooh, you have fancy American cups. And it's like, girl, you can get those at the dollar store over here, but red Solo cups are an American thing. Other countries are side-eyeing us for that one. That's us. Which is so silly. Deep fried everything. Just taking, like, literally anything you can think of and putting it in a deep fryer, regardless of whether or not it should be in a deep fryer. And again, that's just so silly and ridiculous, and I love it. And it is true. You will go, like, you could do a road trip across America, and basically everywhere you go, find something that you really shouldn't put in a deep fryer, put it in a deep fryer and eat it. Like, you can go to a restaurant and just eat anything you can imagine, anything your heart desires, put in a deep fryer. Being loud and assertive. And this is both a positive and a negative thing, but, you know, I always think about stories of, people overseas, like, when conditions are really bad and they're trying to complain politely to the manager, but the manager isn't listening to them or whatever. Like, apparently, because this is such a big stereotype, sometimes, companies overseas will, like, look to their American coworkers to go complain for them to their bosses, because they know that the American coworker is not gonna sugarcoat anything and is just gonna be like, bitch, the amount of unpaid overtime, like, they just send in the American. They're just like, okay, you go do it. And I love that for us. Like, yes, sometimes Americans can be mean, and yes, a lot of countries give us shit for being annoying, because we'll be out at a restaurant or on the train and everyone knows the American tourists are here because we talk so loud. But there are definitely advantages to it, you know? We are social. We give compliments to strangers. We talk to people. Like, if you are, like, on the train in London and you try to talk to a stranger, they're gonna think that you're, like, either trying to sell them something or you're gonna mug them or some shit. And yeah, people in the cities in America sometimes, depending on where you live, are less talkative than in the countryside. But, like, overall, Americans are much more social and much more casual and, like, willing to speak their mind than other people. And I think as long as you're not actively being a dick, that's a really cool trait to have. I think that's neat. Prom and homecoming. Prom and homecoming. Pretty self-explanatory. Valley girl accents. That one gets a lot of shit. I love Valley girl accents, okay? I will die on that hill. I think they're fun and quirky, and I like how they sound. I honestly think the way that people make fun of people with Valley girl accents and say that they're all, like, shallow bimbos, I think that's really misogynistic and also just rude. Honestly, assuming someone's intellect from their accent in general is rude usually comes down to classism, because usually the accent is from a, like, the way that people assume that people with southern accents are less intelligent. Like, it's a whole thing. Or, like, Cockney accents, but I think Valley girl accents are nice. You know what? I think most American accents are nice. And even the ones that I don't personally like, I know that there are people out there who enjoy them. But I singled out Valley Girl accent specifically because I feel like that's a big accent that it's very rare for you to hear someone say that they like Valley Girl accents. So I'm putting it all out there. I love Valley Girl accents. Maybe it's just because I like Gyaru culture and Valley Girl accents are the closest things we have to a Gyaru voice. But Valley Girl accents are so good. I love them. Individualism is a bit of a double-edged sword. American culture is not collectivist enough in a way that really sucks. But there is a certain level of individualism, like I said, everyone being able to choose for themselves and dress how they want and express themselves freely, that I think is important. Like, I do think we should be taking care of each other as a society. I think that level of individualism where it's like, oh, someone is dying next to me, why should I care? I don't like that. But most people aren't like that. Like, even if the policy is kind of like that, most people in your day-to-day life aren't like that. Usually that sense of individualism just manifests as people doing their makeup however they want, dressing however they want, dyeing their hair, not being afraid to stand out. And that's something that I value a lot, especially as someone who's very quirky and who got made fun of a lot growing up. I think the right to be weird and the willingness to be weird and to express yourself is really cool. Multiculturalism. It may not be as idealized as I was told growing up, but there really are a lot of people from a lot of different countries who live here. And there's a lot of very, very cool cultural mixing that does happen. And I think that multiculturalism is sick as hell, and I love it. So, you know, as much as it may not be the perfect multiculturalism I was told we had, what we do have is still better than nothing, and I think that's really nice. Fusion cuisine as well. Fusion cuisine is goated. I love fusion cuisine. Hippies as a subculture, they're from here. Hip-hop is a music genre, but also subculture. That's from here. Skater culture. Like, the way that skateboarding became, like, a whole lifestyle. That's from here. People who make skating, like, a whole identity. That's an American thing. And I think skater culture is cool. I used to really look up to skater people a lot when I was growing up. I was like, oh my god, they're so badass. I also have a bunch of animals and plants that are American. American bison, eastern box turtle, scarlet king snakes, spotted owls. Some of these are in plural form and some are in singular. I'm sorry. Pygmy rattlesnakes, red wolves. I love red wolves. American martin, or martin. Rainbow trout, eastern hellbender, key deer, California condor, American alligators, pronghorns, American green tree frogs. I didn't know we had a unique green tree frog. That's so cool. I found that out researching for this video. Utah prairie dogs, Gunnison's sage grouse, Olympic marmot, island fox, alligator snapping turtle, water moccasin, Hawaiian hawk. That one's technically from Hawaii, I think, and not from America, but I could be wrong. I tried to cut out everything in my list that was actually from Hawaii or like some other territory or country that we just technically own, because I think that's unfair, because I think we shouldn't own Hawaii, but obviously either I missed one or the name is misleading, but I can't remember which it is. So, plus or minus Hawaiian hawk, depending on whether that's like Hawaiian pizza and it isn't actually from Hawaii. Kebab squirrel or kaibob squirrel, Texas blind salamanders, Gila monsters, Florida panthers. There's a high school called the Panthers, Florida Panthers, I think. Might just be Panthers. Kirtland's warbler, Ringtails. Ringtails are so cute. Black-footed ferrets, mountain beavers, eastern indigo snakes, pika, bald eagles, and horses, which the horses one is kind of complicated because they evolved here and are from here, but then they got kidnapped and taken to Spain, and then a bunch of them died out here, and then they came back here. So it's like they are from America, but everyone went on a little field trip for a bit. For plants, Tennessee coneflower, California poppies, Saganaro cactus, I think that's how it's pronounced, pitcher plants, Joshua trees, which have such a fun name. I love that they're just called Joshua trees. Like, yeah, that's just the Brenda plant. This is Joshua tree. American lotus, eastern redbuds, blue bonnets. I didn't know that. I knew they were a flower for one of the states here, but I didn't know, like, that they were from here. I probably should have figured that out. Giant sequoia trees. Chaparral yucca trees? I think that's a tree. Pine, bristlecone pine, that's a tree. Coast redwoods. I grew up in California. I knew I was going to put the redwoods on this list because I remember hearing over and over again, these are redwoods. They're native to California. They're very important. We have to do a lot of legislation to protect them because we don't want them to go extinct because they're like a native plant and they're really important. So I knew I was going to put them on there, but it specified coast redwoods. So that leads me to believe there's probably redwoods in other parts of the world that are just different species, the fact that it specifies, but I always just called them redwoods, I guess because when you're living in California, there's no other redwoods you're going to be talking about. Bald cypress trees, which are presumably named that because they're bald. And then another thing I wrote down that I think is very important is, especially in regard to, like, dissuading people from making those jokes about just blowing up America or why can't North Korea nuke us already, is you gotta remember, first of all that stuff I just listed, especially the plants and animals, no, that's not funny, cut that out. But also, this land isn't even ours. You know, like, the Native Americans were here first. And I know I said that my dad was literally born on a Native reservation, but as of right now, I usually refer to Native Americans in a way that doesn't include myself because I haven't learned about my heritage or my culture. It just doesn't feel right to claim it. You know, if I got heavily involved in it, like moved onto the reservation or something, then maybe eventually, but like, even after I go there and visit, I don't think I'm suddenly gonna start calling myself Native American, because having not grown up knowing about my heritage or engaging with it, it just feels fake to claim that it's a part of my identity when it hasn't really shaped who I am in any meaningful way. But yeah, there are, and this is, again, I cut out what I could from, like, I cut out the ones from other places that are technically America, but, like, aren't the United States. Federally recognized, I want you to keep that in mind, this is just the number for federally recognized Native American tribes. That means that the government had to be like, okay, we're gonna count you as a real tribe and put them on the list. These are the ones that are federally recognized. Okay? 348 Native American tribes federally recognized, just in, like, the map you think of when you think of the United States. Not even in, like, Alaska or anything like that. And, again, federally recognized. That's a lot. That's a lot. And there's way more if you count the federally recognized in the rest of like, American territories that really shouldn't be ours, but are. Technically, none of it should you know what I mean, of other countries and continents that America went over and basically took over, like Hawaii, and we forcibly annexed them, and the Queen sang a whole sad song about it. You know, in just all the states that are connected to each other, like, there's more if you go outside of that, and there's more still just only looking at federally recognized. There's so much culture that's unique to here, and so much history, and yes, there's a lot of bad things in history. Bad things are happening all over the world, and we were not founded under the best of conditions. But there's a lot of good stuff too, and I don't want people to take this as me being like, oh, don't criticize America. No, absolutely criticize it. I think you should. I think criticizing America is extremely important. I think this push to get rid of any negative framing of America, like Trump being like, oh, we shouldn't be displaying anything that's anti-American and like shows America in a bad light, and like telling all these national parks to take down their signs about slavery, that's bullshit. The only way we can get better is recognizing where we have gone wrong and where we are continuing to go wrong. That is the whole point of history classes. And I definitely think that's something we should be continuing to doing. The point of this video, other than just venting my own thoughts, is to not wish and hope and pray for a magical solution to fall out of the sky. To remind yourself of the plants and animals and foods and people worth fighting for, and to be willing to put in the work. And, you know, just accept and be ready to make the world a better place in a real way. Because the things that are already in the history book aren't gonna be undone. People might try to hide them, pretend they didn't happen, but that doesn't change the reality of what happened. The only thing we can do is try to make the next chapters in the history book, the chapters that start in the present and go into the future, better. You know, like, people talk about the great American story, and there's all this talk right now about how that story really isn't that great. You can make it great. And again, it doesn't have to be called America, but whatever it's called in 200 years, whatever country or countries or lack of countries, if there's like a world government, are here in the future, things can be made better for them. If we want a better world, we have to be willing to look at the world around us. We have to be willing to talk about the negative shit, to embrace the positive shit, and to think about what we can do to protect our future, not in like a creepy like Nazi way where they're like, oh, we have to ensure our legacy. Like, no. What I mean by that, so I'm gonna rephrase it, what I mean is fight for the world to be better, try to make things better, take better care of each other and the climate, keep creating beautiful things and being yourself and making wacky dishes out of whatever ingredients you have in the kitchen. Who knows, you might invent a new cultural staple. Like, just, I think you can't make a better reality if you aren't in reality. And I think that's something that's really important. And I think when everyone's standing around trying to, you know, like 4th of July is here and people are spending it thinking about where we live and how things are, or blatantly not thinking about those things because it brings them down, I think that's a good time to consider where we want to be and how to get there. This video was really long and I rambled a lot. I expected it to be a lot shorter than an hour, but it's almost an hour already. So I already have 2 extremely long videos on my YouTube channel. But yeah, also as you can see, I have a couch now. I know I literally just did a room tour and then completely got a new piece of furniture and reorganized my entire room, but it's too soon to do another room tour, so you're just gonna have to live in curiosity for a while. And you really will have to live in curiosity. Do not hunt me down and find my house. Do not do that. You're not allowed to do that, okay? Okay? That's the rule. That's the rule. You're not gonna hunt me down and find my house to figure out what my room looks like. You're not gonna do that, okay? Okay? Just making sure we're on the same page. Because absolutely do not do that. I'm so serious right now. Do not do that. Please! Anyway, other than that, we're good and we're done and we did it. And we survived another year. So pat yourself on the back for not getting hit by a car, or if you're suicidal, for not killing yourself, because I know that's really hard, for eating food, drinking water, doing the things you need to survive. Whether surviving comes easy for you or hard for you, or is something you had to recently decide you wanted to do, it's still good that you've made it. And I'm proud of you. Especially with all these fireworks going off, they can be really damaging for people with PTSD, people with sensory issues like me, for animals. Like, fireworks are rough. And especially, like I said, this day can be really heavy for a lot of people. I just want to take a moment and say I'm glad that you are alive right now. I know huge historical events are happening all the time, and it's really exhausting. But I'm glad that you are here and breathing and a part of the world. I'll pet you with my thumb. Pet, 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 pet. You gotta put your head to the screen. Pet. There we go.